you. So Jonas is a chiropractor and also the CEO of Recharge Alternative EAP, who's transforming how we support and engage with people. So their service is pretty cool because it starts with people having conversations, talking with diagnosticians about their concerns, and from there, they will connect to the appropriate healthcare practitioner that best suits their needs. Because a lot of the times we may feel like something's off, we don't know what's working, what's not working, and we don't even know who to seek. And so, Recharge Alternative EAP fits that important part of the wellness cycle. And it's a stark contrast to what's offered in the market right now because it's really about the person. It's person-centered. So with that, Jonas, please take it away.
Thank you, Hadon, and welcome, you folks. This is a nice small group. We get to have a good chat today. So I want to do my very best to give you something really special. That is one thing that I've been working towards for many years now, doing what I do, connecting with people. The biggest question that I always have is, how do I impact the lives of the people that I'm working with or connected with? And so I'm always racking my brain trying to figure this out and always analyzing what works, what doesn't work. And so this is a big idea compressed really tightly into a few focused principles, but then I also want to give some practical advice. So this session is just about how we can completely transform the way we're thinking, the relationship that you have with your posture, so that you can be unburdened, first of all, with this sort of shame and guilt we often carry around, no pun intended, with our posture, but then also actually have some really practical steps to improve it dramatically. So I gave it a bold title, The Secrets to Never Worrying About Bad Posture Again, and I mean it. So let's see if I can deliver now. I also welcome lots of chat. If you want to share some specific questions, it won't distract me. In fact, that always makes the conversation more exciting when I can personalize what I'm proposing and suggesting in my little presentation to you specifically. So please do share, throw some questions up. If you want to also just share where you're at right now, what city, what country, that'd be great. So let's talk. This relationship we make about our posture, we should toss out the window. And that's because it's flawed or weak or not valuable, not helpful. What I mean by that is, most of the time I feel like the way we've come to understand our posture is that, oh, my posture is bad and I should work harder on it. That's about as far as the logic we develop about our approach to posture as most people go. And I just think that's a shame because, first of all, we're asking the wrong question. It's not my posture is bad and what can I do or how can I work harder on it. It should be, why is my posture bad in the first place? And I don't believe that anybody inherently has bad posture. Sure, we have different curves in our spine, but everybody can manage with what they have. What really matters is how we're spending our time. And we don't spend enough time discussing this, figuring out how we're spending our time in our day, in our workspace, and how that affects our posture, because it's easier to address that and let our posture sort itself out than try to strain ourselves and try to fix the posture once it's strained. So that's why I suggest, if we redesign our workspace, change the way we're moving through our day in easy, practical ways, then posture just takes care of itself. And the simple example is, like, when you feel postural strain is when you've been sitting at a desk for a long period of time. When you're walking around on a Saturday afternoon, doing whatever you do on Saturdays, you don't have postural strain. The simple reason is we have more diversity of activities. You're sitting here, you're standing, you get up, you move, you do this, you lie down, you walk, you run, you do that. And the diversity sorts your posture out for you because you're not straining your body in one particular way. So we already introduced me. I do this thing where I just help groups of people, the companies that we work with. We provide their staff with one-on-one connections with healthcare providers. That's what I do. So I've been doing this for several years now, just trying to help people figure out their problems, whether that's posture, whether it's mental health, whether it's relationship, whether it's financial. That's what we do. So I have a passion for this, and I just wanted to share a little blip of one of the topics we often cover for our groups. So we care about posture for a lot of reasons. It's more than just our physical state. It's how we look, how we present ourselves, how we perceive ourselves in a mirror, and how we imagine other people perceive us. And the perception that we give off, the impression that we give people, has a lot to do with our posture. Our posture is a big part of our body language, and we're aware of that. So that's why we care about it. And it's also important to the functions of our body. So when we start having problematic posture, it's not just pain, but we actually have a lot of nerves that go down and operate our body, control the functions of our organs that can be compromised with prolonged bad posture. So it's preserving, by improving our posture, it's preserving the function of our body and how well we actually work. It's a neurological phenomenon. So it's something that, yes, it has to do with the shape of your spine, the joints, the stiffness of your muscles. That's more or less what we've been given biologically, genetically. But then it's more to do with how we spend our time. What you're given is just kind of the beginning. The way we mold our body over time makes more of a difference in the long run. So that's what I want to talk about, mostly because that's the element we have control over. Now, oftentimes we're trying to figure out how we improve posture. There's lots of different ideas that we come to the table with. Most people just think, oh, we just have to try harder. That's always what I hear people saying to me is, oh, I should work more on my posture. I should have better. I'm going to try more. I'm going to sit more upright. That element of discipline, willpower, that's just not realistic. It's like you're holding a bowling ball, out like this. You're just not going to be able to hold it up against gravity for very long. So you're going to lose the battle against gravity every time. So I think this idea that we should just have more discipline about it is not really helpful. Exercising, again, helpful in general, but specifically in terms of posture, I don't think it's wise to be breaking our posture, straining ourselves, and then trying to rectify it by doing some exercise. That's just a whole wasted cycle if we can prevent it from being strenuous in the first place. Then we often see, or at least I often see, perhaps it's my bias, a lot of things popping up, postural gadgets and gizmos, often on Indiegogo or Kickstarter, and these are those devices that are kind of cool in concept, but from all the people that I've worked with that use these things, they work for as helpful devices for a week or two, and then they start to get annoying. So they're by no means a sustainable long-term help for posture. So what do we do? This is the first big actionable thing that we can do to improve our posture. We can change the frequency of how we shift through positions. If you sit all day, you're straining your body and your posture in a very specific way all day, and that builds up, and then you have a problem, bad posture. If you stand all day, you also will build up strain in a very specific way. If you lie down all day, you'll also build up strain in your body in a very specific way. So what we need to do is divide up our time and change as frequently as possible. So shifting from sitting to standing is something a lot of us are starting to do now. Shifting frequently between sitting and standing, and also adding a third element, which is, I call it lounging. This is a flexible term, but basically we're relaxing our body, taking the pressure off the areas that you're building up strain when you're sitting and when you're standing. So cycling through these three positions is a really healthy way to distribute the tension that builds up in your body, thereby preventing posture from becoming poor, preventing your muscles from fatiguing, from holding your head up. This is just a simple, forgive me, I'm not an artist, I'm a chiropractor. This is a simple diagram just to illustrate that when we're sitting, there's very specific parts of our body that are taking the strain from the weight of our body and the tensions that our muscles are holding. And so when you change your position, you're changing that part of your body. And we want that to be constantly moving around, because you can very effectively distribute strain through your body consistently through the day. As long as it's different, you won't have lasting repercussions to that strain. Okay, just like my example earlier, on a Saturday afternoon, you can work out, you can run, you can stand a lot, you can sit a lot, but as long as you're changing frequently, that won't build up and last and cause problems. So we need to switch. We need to give ourselves, the shorter the increment of time that we switch in, the better off you're going to be. So ideally, the gold standard would be 20 minutes. between the different positions. I know that's not realistic for the vast majority of us. And so even if it's an hour of one position, shifting then for the next hour to the next position, and then a third hour for the next position, that is substantially better for your body and your physical health than it would be to spend the majority of our time in any one of those positions, sitting, standing, or other. The other big practical tip I have for people who do want to actively improve their posture is to stretch and strengthen with specificity. So we all build tensions in very specific parts of our body. Standard example, tight pectoral muscles from our shoulders being forward, working on a computer all day. Tight muscles back here from holding our head up all the time. Low back gets stretched because we're bent over when we're sitting down, and our hip flexors get tight. So, for example, if your low back is where you feel the buildup of postural strain, what you can do in your in-between time, whenever you have a moment or two, is do a hip flexor stretch. Just a simple hip flexor stretch for a few seconds even. Little incremental bits throughout the day is going to really help to reduce that buildup of compressive tension. And then any exercise like a cat-cow, or there's one called the dead bug, that just gets the back muscles and the back tissues to move well, is a good way to help reduce the impact of the buildup of strain that you would otherwise have from sitting down a lot. If it's in your neck, we can obviously just stretch the trapezius muscles. It's relatively difficult to stretch the neck in general, but this is one way we can get a lot of good movement, just doing a nice gentle stretch from time to time. And then chin tucks is a nice way to bring our head from being a little forward on top of our spine to being neutral on top of our spine. And when we do that, we really reduce the impact of the pulling of the muscles in the back of the neck, and that can be a good long-term strategy. So building your capacity to tuck your chin is going to help you in the long term prevent the buildup of neck strain. If it's your shoulders, what you're going to want to do is stretch your pectoral muscles. There's lots of different ways to do that, using a wall, using a doorway, using even just one arm and working on it with your hand. The other thing you can do, called wall angels, you can look these up if you're inclined. Basically, it's exercise where you're strengthening these lower mid-back muscles so that they can work harder through the day to hold your shoulders back and prevent them from slouching forward. When you're spending most of your time in a chair, and that's more or less unavoidable for you, at least have some ways that you can improve the position your body stays in. So when you slump into a normal chair, your back bends quite a bit, your pelvis shifts backwards, your head shifts forward, and that puts a lot of strain, makes it a lot of work for your back muscles to be holding your head up. So you can add lumbar support. Pelvic support is even better, lower lumbar support. Maybe even sit on a slight incline or decline rather, with a wedge or an air cushion. Add some movement to the seat surface that you have. So that's a little way you can reduce the impact of sitting on your lower and upper body. When you're standing, there's something that's really powerful, is adding an element of being dynamic to what you're sitting or standing on, because it turns your time from being sedentary to being dynamic, to being active. So your body is actually able to move these micro movements, which prevents the buildup of the strain of being sedentary. So that's a really good option. When you're lounging, this is just when you're on your couch, when you're in your bed, when you're in a lazy boy, we can work like that without it being a problematic thing, as long as we're switching between these three different options. And support your neck. Oftentimes I see people sink into their couches and their beds and they end up like this in a really awful C shape. That's very strenuous on your body. So all you need to do is use a bunch of pillows to prop yourself up in your low back primarily, with the biggest pillow, smaller one behind your neck, and the third pillow I suggest you use is actually one in your lap, so that anything that you're holding, whether it's your phone, your computer, or anything else, you can be up like this to prevent your head from coming down. So that's really it, guys. The diversity of positions is transformative for your posture. It is the essence of changing the way that your body builds up strength through the day. And that is one of the main secrets to never worrying about posture again, or bad posture, is that you shift the way that your body is being used and you no longer build up strain in very specific ways. The timing is the other element. Okay, if you're sitting for 3 hours and standing for 3 hours, that's not that much better than sitting all day or standing all day. So you got to build frequent transitions into your day to make this really work well. And then optimizing the in-between time. So this is then putting some thoughtful attention into your body. So the tight muscles here, that, tense tissues in your low back, the tight hip flexors, whatever it is for you, be specific and use that time when you're on a call, when you're in a video session, to put a little time into improving the state of your body. That way you're mitigating it as it happens rather than waiting until you're feeling pain and trying to rectify it later. So actionables. If you want to really redesign the way you're approaching your work from home time, create this dynamic shift between 3 positions. And it just takes a bit of arranging, figuring out your equipment to be able to do that. And then build in some signals, whether that's your phone on a 30-minute timer or something more interesting. Maybe every meeting of this type that you have, you do standing, and every time you're doing emails, you go on the couch, and then you can build in transition signals. And then use all the opportunities you can. When you have a call that you don't need to be on the keyboard, or you have a video call that you can be standing and doing some stretching or some rehab or balancing work or whatever you want to do, work on your body during those times, because that's precious. And you will find that you will not really have to do a lot of work on your body after the end of your day if you don't want to. And so this is a really nice way to integrate your improving your body time into your day. And as long as it doesn't take away from your work, it's a really good plan. Some of the things that I really love, there's lots of different ways we can improve our posture, but these are some things that I think are slightly underutilized, except the first one, just a sit-stand platform. This is something that's cheap and accessible these days. You just slap it on your desk and now you have a sit-stand desk. So it's a really easy way to permanently create that sit-stand option and remind you to use it. The second example here is a balance board, where if you happen to be someone who likes to stand a lot, you use one of these to make your surface dynamic so that your whole core is engaged while you're working, rather than just standing there compressing your low back. And the last one is one that I'm a fan of, because we build up a lot of strain in our mid back, even when we're doing a pretty good job of being dynamic. And that's just because so much of our life is forward. So this is just a simple device. It's a piece of foam that's in this shape, as you can see, that you would lie back on just for a minute or 5 minutes here and there throughout the day, and it decompresses the buildup of strain in your thoracic spine, in your mid back. Okay, so that's our little session on posture and how we can rethink it, change how we're moving through our day to change our posture and have to be concerned about it being bad for the rest of the time. And this is just an example of one of the little sessions that we like to do for our clients. We like to bring a lot of education to engage people in conversations that are meaningful to them. So I'm going to stop there, and if we have a moment or two for questions
Jonas,
or chat, let's do that.
Let's do it. I know we're a bit over time, but that's all right, because the next session is you as well. So we're good.
Okay, good. I'm holding up the next speaker then.
No problem. But I did see a question in the chat from Ola, which is awesome. It's a great question, which is, with a standing desk, what's the best balance between standing and sitting? I think you kind of alluded to this a bit during your conversation.
Yeah, Olga, good question. That's highly variable. So it really depends on you. There's no standard, because our bodies are so different. Some people can't tolerate 10 minutes of standing. Some people can literally stand all day and they're most comfortable doing so. So I can't give you a starting point that has to be based on you. But I think the key here is you shouldn't do either one of them until you feel strain. Strain and pain should not be your signal to change. What you need to do is build a signal and a frequency that works preventatively. That, if I'm to give you a specific number that works universally based on physiology research, it would be 20 minutes. 20 minutes sitting, 20 minutes standing, it would be the optimal. Again, I don't, for a lot of people that's impractical, and that's okay, but that is physiologically the optimal frequency of spending time in each. And how does posture impact your legs? In what sense? Could you elaborate on that, Sydney? I suppose while you're typing out a
Yeah, I know we had another question too, and this one's a hot topic. So as we're all working remote, everyone's looking for their best like work setup, specifically chairs. So how do you feel about those fancy, expensive chairs on the market right now, like racing chairs or the Herman Miller?
I think they're largely a waste of money because again, it's about where you focus. If you're going to sit all day and you're sitting for 8 to 10 hours a day and you're not moving, this is where gamer chairs come from, right? They're trying to make it more comfortable to sit longer. We know sitting is for prolonged periods of time is very detrimental to our health. So that's no longer what we're trying to do. We're not trying to make it more comfortable to sit longer. Therefore, we're not prioritizing comfort and features of a chair. What we need to do is have one that suits us, that moves around enough, has the basic features of lifting up and down, being able to tilt a little bit and have lumbar support. That's it. And you can get that for a few $100 anywhere. So my opinion, you're overspending with Herman Millers, with gaming chairs, and you're looking at the wrong thing. You're looking for comfort to be able to sit longer, which is very detrimental. So we want to be able to have something that works very simply and doesn't break the bank, and that we can just use as a part of our day, not for our full day. So
Awesome.
tingling in your legs, should I stop or do I have a moment to answer it?
Yeah, I think we'll do our hard cutoff at 12:45, so you can
Okay.
prep for your next session.
Okay.
So Sydney's like, I think probably the last question for today.
Yes. I would say more specifically than just posture in general, Sydney, if you're having tingling in your legs, that's cutting off the blood circulation, especially if it's both legs. If it's just one leg, it would be maybe neurological. But if it's the tingling after sitting for a long period of time, you're just cutting off the blood circulation. The most common reason for that I see is people having chairs that put pressure here. Okay. If you're sitting like this, there's a pressure point being applied to the midway down my hamstring here, where there's lots of blood flow supposed to be working, and you're just squeezing the hose that's taking blood. And if you're feeling that tingling, that means you're compressing those arteries that should be carrying blood, and you should definitely figure out a way to mitigate that. You can sit on a wedge. You can get a chair that has a seat pan that tilts forward, and the byproduct of that will improve your posture, because when your pelvis tilts forward, your low back arches, your head comes back, and you're more upright. So you're addressing two problems at the same time. You're welcome.
Awesome. Thank you again, Jonas, so much for sharing all your knowledge today.